Welcome to this YouTube clip where Janet and I are delighted to introduce our new book with you all. And it's Reframing and Rethinking Collaboration in Higher Education and Beyond, practical guide for doctoral students and early career researchers. And we're absolutely delighted to be here and talking about some of the aspects that we highlight in the book in regards to self-awareness and self-care in relation to collaboration. So we're going to talk about what our experiences in collaboration have been like in higher education, and then bounce off one another in regards to those experiences and picking out key elements that we highlight in the book as a nice entry point for all of you as you think about what collaboration means for you and what you want to achieve with that in regards to where you're at with your studies as a higher degree research student or as someone early in their career in higher ed. So Janet, I'm really fascinated to know about your experiences with collaboration. What has that been like?
Well, I've had a lot of really positive experiences with collaboration, but I've also had some very difficult experiences that I think maybe we can learn from, both of our kind of problematic experiences. So I'm going to share a couple of examples. In the first example, I was approached by people who were higher up in my institution and led to believe that they wanted to collaborate with me around some problem solving and kind of program improvement. And so, I had a number of conversations about, kind of ways that we could move forward, and was quite candid because, they, kind of, were able to some extent to gain my trust. But on the other hand, it's a situation where, I was not in a position of power. So if I'm being asked to share certain kinds of perspectives and ideas, then, that's what I needed to do. But then I found out later from a third party that, they really had no intention whatsoever of collaborating with me or working forward on the kinds of program improvements they had discussed with me. That, it was really a dishonest situation. And I can't tell you why, because, that was never revealed to me. The conversations were just kind of broken off, discontinued. So again, a situation where there's an appearance of collaboration, but, not being in a position of power, to really, take an equal and active role. So that's one kind of situation. The other one I wanted to share with you, it's a situation where it's a collaboration or an appearance of collaboration between peers. So in this example, I'm going to use a doctoral committee where, we're all on the same level as faculty members. So one is not in a senior or supervisory role, but within the context of that doctoral committee, you might be the chair of the committee. And so, it's the job of each committee member to review the student's dissertation and decide what we want the student to do, whether we want revisions, whether, how we're going to move forward, whether we accept it as is, et cetera, et cetera. And having kind of very unequal participation where some people are reading, everything and giving very thoughtful comments. And then you might have a committee member who kind of waits until everyone else has weighed in and then, oh yeah, I agree with Joe, or they just kind of, it's clear they haven't really put in the time. And, again, in a situation where there's not a clear, power differential where you could say to that person, oh, well, you have not done an adequate job, and therefore, there are consequences because you're not in a position to give those kinds of consequences. So what kinds of difficult encounters with collaboration have you had?
Well, I totally resonate with those two examples that you have shared. I've seen that many times and have been a part of collaborations where that has been going on. The two little stories I want to share is one about coming into my career as an early career researcher and being caught up with the excitement of ideas. And that's something that I love anyway, and it gets me really excited. And so many of my successful collaborations have been, have come out from that excitement of ideas and bouncing off one another. But what I realized early in my career was that sometimes ideas and that excitement and those conversations in the corridor and a couple of meetings getting together don't go anywhere. And so you invest a huge amount of effort, time, think space, often writing or researching, gathering papers for a collaboration that ends up just going nowhere. And I think I have a lot of folders on my computer where they've been projects and they've been allocated a folder and there's ideas and resources and things in there, and then they just don't go anywhere. And that's happened quite a lot earlier in my career, and particularly when it's involved senior staff members, where there's kind of been a little bit of a, oh wow, they've thought of me and they would like to include me. And then sort of just figuring out, where does that sit and what does that really mean, and what does that mean for me when I have that strength of super organization and loving ideas and bouncing off from that. How do I want to use that, and where do I want to use that time and put that effort to? And the other collaboration story that I want to share is one about that classic situation where you're co-writing with somebody or multiple people, and the paper, all of a sudden there's silence, and you've written significant bits and there's silence, but then you've discovered that it's been published, but your name has been dropped off, but your work is still included. And the first time that happened to me was quite shocking and upsetting, and I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what had happened. There hadn't been an incident where you're like, okay, that's it, you're not a part of it, or things are going in a different direction. It's just that sort of that drop off aspect. And it's sort of, figuring out what does that mean for you? And, it fits really nicely into those ideas of what we want to talk about today, is in terms of that self-awareness and also our self-care. And what do those two concepts mean for us individually and you listening, in regards to how we want to approach collaborations and what that looks like?
Right, because I think with both of the examples we've shared, there's situations that, perhaps you are listening and thinking, well, what could I do? And, I'm vulnerable, and I'm helpless in this situation. But what we hope from our little conversation here and from our book, that you will find that there's always something that you can do. In some situations, maybe you don't have the power to change the direction that something is going, and you've got to get through this dissertation. You've got to get established in your new position, and so you're going to have to figure out how to move forward. But still, by practicing self-care and having self-awareness about what the situation involves, you'll find a way to get through it and come out the other side and be able to make better choices in terms of how you're going to move forward.
That's a great point. And I love that what happens is over time, it changes and develops for you, and what self-awareness and self-care looks like for you changes and develops and grows. And there's an acknowledgement that sometimes those situations, particularly early on in your career, and your studying, are really, really hard. And they are really, really hard and often out of your control as well. And so what we're encouraging with our book and how we've approached it is to really think about being empowered and honouring that chance to learn and to grow, and to find those people that you want to work with and who can support you in whatever role that is, whether it's a mentor or formally through supervision or with a collaboration where you're co-team members, and having that empowerment to know that you do have some choice in some aspects, and you always have a choice in how you want to behave and also how you interact with others, which often we don't realize and we forget about that aspect.
Well, I think, if we, on the self-awareness side, to sometimes being in a difficult or even outwardly negative situation helps us to become even more committed to the ways of being that we feel are important. So, it may be that, in a particular situation, all we can do is kind of manage our stress and just get through it. But at the same time, we're, thinking about how are we going to do this differently when we do, kind of mature in our careers and have the ability to act differently. I mean, the way that I experienced my own doctoral supervision, which was, a horrendous nightmare, really affirmed, for me, the kind of mentor I wanted to be once I was in that situation, where I had responsibility for others. And, then I could say, well, I know what it, feels like on the other side. So we can use those difficult situations to not only affirm our own values and what we feel is the right way to treat others and the right way to move forward, but while we're in it, how are we going to manage? So that's why we wanted to emphasize the self-care piece, because if we just let the stress of those difficult, especially early career situations or doctoral student situations really get to us, then we really have kind of let the negative forces win, because we're sacrificing our own strengths at that point.
Yeah, definitely. And we want to think about self-care as a aspect that we're always building, and we're always looking at ways that we can maintain and sustain aspects, and that self-care looks different for all of us as well, and it's different according to situations. So it's always, we always talk about self-care in relation to what's right for you right now. And when we're thinking about collaboration, and particularly those that perhaps are not going so well or are confronting to you in a number of different aspects, thinking about where you sit with that and how you can take care as you're processing what's happening, how you want to be, what you want to do, where's that looking, and drawing on a whole heap of different aspects as well. So self-care, I talk about self-care in terms of a toolbox of resources, and they come from a variety of different places and look different in terms of time as well. They could be 30-second little mini meditations, or a moment where you just stop and you breathe and you connect back to being grounded, and you just take a pause in that moment, right through to you take a whole weekend off and you make that decision that you're not going to do those extra hours to help you keep working through in that pace, that you're making that decision that I'm not working on the weekend, that that time is there. You might go away, you might go for a long walk, and there's different things that you do daily or weekly, different combinations of things that help you draw in. And a part of that is that personal responsibility, but also being aware that relationships are a key to that as well. So who are the people you can draw on within the collaboration or outside of the collaboration as well to help you take care of you? And they might not know necessarily that's what their role is, but you might see them as a mentor who is really being able to give a different perspective or share insights, or who just listens and can hear what you're experiencing and let you share that in a confidential way to get that out, because we know that talking about these things with the right people helps us process and move through that way. So throughout the book, we talk about all sorts of different concepts. We have a taxonomy of collaboration, we draw on strengths, and one of those aspects is we really highlight curiosity and being curious in who you are in a collaboration, but also how you want to work with others, but being curious as well on what do your partners bring that might be different to you that you can learn from, or might be similar to you, but are implemented in ways that look a little bit different or sound a little bit different. And all the way through the book, we have an amazing set of resources in terms of activities, reflective questions, journaling, mindful journaling, questions there that sit there for you to think about individually and collectively, ways that you want to approach collaboration through the different stages as a PhD, higher degree research student, but also an early career researcher as well. And these are an example of some of the questions that we have posed throughout. So we're, getting that deep thinking happening throughout the book.
I think, part of the self-awareness piece too kind of ties into, well, how am I going to do things differently when I encounter this situation again, or when I encounter a similar situation again, where, I might say, well, it could be a little bit awkward at the beginning to say, hey, before we're going to think about doing a project together or writing a paper together or a book together or whatever it may be, I need to know that we're on the same page about how we're going to proceed. And let's look at different ways that we might work together and have that conversation before you commit to it. Because, as the example you were giving, where, especially, as the kind of enthusiastic people like both of us are, where, if someone is interested and you're like ready to yay, let's go for it. That, as you become more aware, not only of what you need in a collaboration, but what a real collaboration will entail, particularly for a large project that may go on for a period of time, and to, at least try to begin, from a place of agreement about how you're going to work together. So we hope that, some of the kind of strategies and tools that we offer, will help you to do that, to think about, what are the conversations I need to have, what are the agreements we need to make, and, how can we, move forward in a way that will be workable. How are we going to make decisions, and how are we going to deal with kind of leadership, what I would call leadership issues about, kind of the strategic direction that we're going to take. So that's why when you suggested the idea of us, focusing on the self-awareness and self-care together, I felt like, those really are some core themes from the book that we hope people will be able to use to really take what can be a challenging thing to work collaboratively, and instead look at it as a real opportunity for creativity and kind of relationship building that can, where you feel confident that you can work through the problems and move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And we're really excited to share our book with you. And we hope that you enjoy it and embrace the approach that we've taken to collaboration in higher ed, particularly looking at the positive aspects and, you know, drawing on those hard things. We don't shy away from that. But what we want to really encourage is to empower you to feel excited about your collaborations, and when there's a problem or where there's an issue, that there's a way through it, and that we can start to disrupt some of these bad practices that we see in higher ed and get passed through, and that there's a way forward in a way where collaborations are really constructive and are a positive experience for those involved and those watching around as well. So we look forward to hearing from you in regards to your thoughts about our book. And of course, you can connect with Janet and I on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And our book is also up online for ordering as well. So we really look forward to your thoughts, and we hope that you enjoy the book. Thank you.